The National Democratic Coalition, NADECO, which fought for the actualization of the June 12, 1993 presidential election won by the late Chief MKO Abiola, as well as for the restoration of democratic governance in Nigeria in the 1990s, is in the news again. This time, its Secretary-General and Spokesman, Ayo Opadokun, has written open letters to President Muhammadu Buhari and the Secretary-General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, to express concern over what the group sees as the abrogation of democratic tenets in the country. In particular, NADECO was distressed over the deterioration of national security and political stability and appealed to Buhari and the UN to take appropriate steps to reverse the slide to civil war. Following the correspondence to the President and the UN, which some might dismiss as alarmist, we're now being joined by Mr. Opadokun, who will explain the rationale for sounding the alarm on the socio-political situation in the country. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the program, Mr. Opadokun.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yes, and we're also glad to have you on the program. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. Mr. Opadokun, you are on the front page of This Day Today with the story NADECO writes Buhari on insecurity, insists on abrogation of 1999 Constitution. And we've just shown on the screen, a picture of the letter that you sent directly to the President about the deteriorating situation in the country. If you could just take our viewers through the main highlights of that letter to the President and to the UN and other international stakeholders. And if you could also just comment on the statement by the President most recently that there is nothing to restructure, that groups like yours calling for the restructuring of Nigeria do not know what they are talking about, and that people who have never been involved in partisan politics should just please keep quiet and not bother to dictate the direction in which Nigeria must go.
Thank you. NADECO decided upon this option because we knew that we were at the end of our tethers. Let it be stated first that the 1999 Constitution that is being touted by President Buhari as the basic law that grants him the power to do and undo remains a fake and forged document which lied against itself. We cannot but repeat the fact that since the army struck on January 15, 1966, they suspended, amended, abrogated the 1960 and 1963 Independence and Republican Constitution, which were the basis upon which Nigeria secures independence. A federal constitutional governance was arrived at as a negotiated constitutional document because it was realized that Nigeria is an heterogeneous society composed of over 350 ethnic groups with their different languages, culture, traditions, customs, artifacts, folklores, mores, morals, and the likes. These were to be given free rein, while the component unit will meet at the center. But when the militants staged their insurrection, violent insurrection, and toppled the government of Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, they substituted our negotiated constitution with series of decrees 1 to 9. Eventually, they went to the extent of manufacturing a decree called the Supremacy and Enforcement of Power Decree number 28 of 1970, which eventually cleared the doubt as to who had power, they used the force of arms to subdue Nigeria. So I must say, therefore, from the day one, that Nigeria never subscribed to these decrees. All that they have done since January 15, 1966 remain an illegality. Therefore, all institutions that grew out of their decrees, they all constitute illegalities. Now that Nigerians are asking that the decrees that centralized and unitarized Nigeria had occasioned injustice, unfairness, inequity, total disregard, and disrespect for the rule of law, that it was in the best interest of Nigeria that we return to the independence constitution upon which we secured our independence. That has been the clamor of Nigeria since 1992. It grew wider and wider until the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because we have seen in President Buhari, who promised that he was going to secure Nigeria, he was going to transform the economy, and he was going to fight a successful war against corruption. That all that he has said to us, he has virtually reneged on all of them. The fact that the ethnic nationalities, highly valued Nigerians, have clamored that let us return to this federal constitutional arrangement that guaranteed the progress and development of every area undeterred or held down by any other. President Buhari has totally ignored. He had openly expressed his disgust and disdain for the clamor for restructuring and return to federal constitutional governance. As a result of that, and we know that government in Nigeria is a totality. The Nigerian government, the Nigerian state is in total command of every public institution. There is nowhere else to turn. There is no institution to which we can resort to redress our grievance. That's why, on behalf of the ethnic nationalities who have been entrapped in this suffocating environment, we are to have direct discussion, dialogue, and letter to the global body that had been constituted to ensure that in every part of the world there is peace, there is stability, and development.
We're sorry to interrupt you at this point, Mr. Opadokun. We need to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back to you. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News Channel. Our guest is still the General Secretary and Spokesperson of the National Democratic Coalition, Mr. Ayo Opadokun. And NADECO has just written open letters to President Muhammadu Buhari and other international stakeholders. Mr. Opadokun, back to you. Sorry we interrupted you. We needed to take that commercial break.
Thank you very much. Now we realized that the state of insecurity in Nigeria is totally worrisome. It has degenerated beyond what is tolerable. The fact that non-state actors had become superior, much more dominant, much more effective than the Nigeria coercive instrument. That is a sign that the Nigerian state security architecture had been totally undermined and cannot provide nor guarantee life and security, which is the first and primary business of any government in office. The Global Human Rights Convention of 1948 of the United Nations Organization that was agreed upon in Paris, and the African Charter on Human Rights and Commission that was agreed together at Addis Ababa, really talk about the importance of security of life and property. The Nigerian state has failed to be able to provide Nigerians with that right. And when it gets to a situation like that, and the non-state actors are becoming very powerful, they attack both civilian targets and military targets at will. Just this last week, it was reported by the media, not only did they attack the military convoy, they set fire on the armored corps, they have attacked the army barracks, police barracks, and police stations and the likes. And yet, the Nigerian state has not been able to do anything to deter them. That is a sign that usually will lead to anarchy. And when anarchy sets in, no one can say who will be consumed and who will be left. It is therefore in the best interest of Nigeria that we consult and we speak to those who really have responsibility to bring order, to ensure fairness, justice, and equity in the global setting. That is the reason, part of the reason. For example, in our letter to President Buhari, we spoke about the injustice, the inequity of the state of affairs. Look at what the composition of the so-called National Assembly that gives overbearing, disproportionate number to the northern part of the country, over and ahead of the south. Look at, in that letter, we stated, quite frankly, with figures, latest figures from the Office of the Accountant General, what each zone is taking from the Federation account. The South that is producing virtually 70%, 70.84% of the total foreign exchange and crude oil. They are taking 60%. But this, I can tell you that even Northeast, that is not producing anything, as of today, is taking also 60%. And the composition of the nation the National Assembly is done in such a skewed manner that gives advantage to the northern states. So when President Buhari and his kitchen cabinet, when they keep insulting us that we should go to the National Assembly to redress of our grievances, they knew that just by their own individual preferences, individual prejudices, they've composed that National Assembly to give them advantage over the South. So we believe that the business at hand is beyond the National Assembly. In any case, the National Assembly itself is a subject matter of discussion by the ethnic nationality leaders that were the building blocks upon which Nigeria was constructed. We must agree as to what kind of legislature do we have and do we need. Is it a unicameral? Is it a bicameral one? And what will be their status? What should be their earning? The fact of the matter was that the military imposed an executive presidential system on Nigeria. It was not our choice. It was not our choice. And the place where they took that from was the United States of America. America today remains the largest economy in the world, in spite of the aggravated efforts of China to overrun it. Look at the state of Nigeria economy, and look at what is happening with the so-called National Assembly under this 1999 Constitution. We know that this Constitution is unfair to Nigerians. It lied against itself. We cannot accept it because we know that we never, at any period in our lives, accepted to be governed under the military decrees that unitarize and centralize governance in Nigeria. So that is why, because there is no place where we can seek redress, we have to resort to writing the global body, the Secretary-General of the United Nations, the Security Council of the United Nations, the President of the United States of America, the Speaker of the House of Rep, and the leader of the Senate of the American Congress, the European Union and the European Union Commission, the United Kingdom and the House of Commons. And then we have written also to the leaders of our religious body, two main leaders, the President of the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, and then the President of Christian Association of Nigeria, and then two eminent traditional rulers from each zone of the country. All that we're asking them to do is to assist the entrapped ethnic nationalities of Nigeria to regain their fundamental human right, freedom, human dignity, and right to self-determination as enshrined in the global laws and protocols as already raised in our memo. So this is the reason why we had to write this open letter and copy the people we have copied.
Well,
and the title of our letter to them is Save Our Souls.
Indeed, sir. Well, that leads me to my question. What exactly do you expect them to do in response to your letter? And have you had a response so far? Because your letters are dated 15th of June. Have you had a response either from the United Nations or any of the people that you sent the letter to, or from the presidency?
We have not received anything. Huh? We've not received anything, but we hope that we will get something. Huh? Let me say the reason why what we are expecting them to do. Huh? The ethnic nationalities as contained in the attached open letter to President Buhari can no longer accept to be treated as slaves and inferior citizens in this British contrived political space. Agitation for a return to federal constitutional governance using the 1960 and 1963 independence and republican constitutions as the working papers have been very loud, persistent, and popular by ethnic nationalities and others with the use of the South and the Middle Belt, who constitute about 65% of the latest statistics of Nigerian population, have resorted to strict actions leading to political instability, incohesion, and mutual distrust that are worse than what the situation was before the Nigerian Civil War between 1967 and 1970. We are appealing to them to take appropriate steps to help Nigeria resolve the dangerous paths the country is treading now. Political upheavals, instability, another civil war is better prevented now by the international community, because it will cost the international community far less if they prevent the possible eruption of open hostilities in Nigeria. This is also because anything that happens in Nigeria will have an unwholesome and negatively impactful consequences on the West African sub-region, the African continent, and the global community. And we told them our request is urgent and timeous.
Okay, sir. You're still waiting for a response, but over the weekend, somebody was speaking on behalf of the president. It was said that the person said that those that are calling for restructuring, should go and do partisan politics or see what it feels like to win a local government election somewhere in their area. That this call should be dismissed, that what we should call for is, judicial autonomy in states and the likes. In a nutshell, the calls for restructuring was dismissed. The slant of all of your letter is still restructuring, if I want to narrow it down. Yeah, the reason why you're saying, okay, the United Nations should help, bring about this right is because restructuring, 63 Constitution, the way it's run and things like that. What are you going to say to that response, or to that statement? Someone that was representing the president over the weekend at the Guterres Abiola Sabungeri Foundation, Pali put together. What's your response to that person?
First, I must confess that I recognize that President Buhari has a split personality. The military dictatorship in him is difficult to be left aside. But he ran for this office of civilian president 3 times and he failed. And he came to us begging that he had changed, he had been transformed from being a military dictator who had scant or total disregard and respect for the rule of law and freedom of the press. If you remember what he did in 1994-95, that he was totally disrespectful and he had content for the media that just for the fact that Tunde Irabo and Thompson and Nduka Irabo, Tunde Thompson, wrote about the idea that there was the possibilities that some people would be posted out as Nigerian ambassadors because it had not been put out by government. You know, they were sent to trial and they were punished. They were sentenced to 1 year jail. And because he told us he was going to tamper with the press, and he did. He manufactured Decree 4, which makes truth to be a graver offense. The truer your statement, the more grievous your punishment was. But he said he had changed. He's now a reformed man. He's now a Democrat. When a Democrat in office starts issuing the kind of statement he used these last 2 or 3 days, it's unfortunate because what it has shown is that he understood the fact that he's no more a military dictator. He sought for the vote of Nigerians. And because he secured them, that does not give him a license to roughshod over all of us and treat all of us contemptuously as if we were minions. Nigerian citizens, the Nigerian electorate remain his bosses. We are his masters. He's being paid through the tax that we pay. It's being fed through the tax that we pay. So we are masters. Sovereignty remains with the Nigerian people. We send out a little part of it to those who are elected for the period when they will be in office. Sovereignty remains in us. That's why the provision for recall and for impeachment remain in the Constitution. And the fact that, I think last week, our own president went to the extent of threatening the people from the East who are agitating for restructuring, and he was threatening them with reprisal that they would deal with them as they did during the Civil War. I thought that was the mark of unsettlementship. It was not expected from a president of Nigeria who ought to be the president for all. In any case, it should be reminded that it should no more be living in the past. The global community has advanced. There is no empire that you can point to that remains permanent. Today, there is no United Soviet Socialist Republic on the world map. Today, Father Joseph Tito's Yugoslavia is no more on the world map. What we used to know when Haile Selassie was presiding over Ethiopia is no more the same thing today. So any nation state that is packaged together as the colonial, the colonial Great Britain colonized us and put us together through the force of arms. Any nation state that is put together by force of arms, they never lasted. Nigeria will not be an exception. So all this clamor, all this agitation for indissolubility of Nigerian state and the likes, they are all wishful thinking. Well, on that note, sir, we can only remain together if we are equal. if we are treated equally, if the fundamental human right of everybody is respected, and if nobody, a group of people don't imagine themselves to be the owners of the Nigerian project and not others as spectators.
We need to take another commercial break, and when we return, the conversation with you will continue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Our guest is still the General Secretary and Spokesperson of the National Democratic Coalition in Nigeria, Mr. Ayo Opadokun. Thank you very much, sir, for staying with us. Well, we got all the points you have made about equity, about justice, about equality, about every Nigerian group having a sense of belonging. But one of the major recommendations from NADECO is that Nigeria will be better off returning to the 1960 or 1963 constitution. Whereas some other groups are saying, well, what we need is a brand new constitution arising from a conference of that same conference of ethnic nationalities that you referred to earlier. What is so special about the 1960 or 1963 constitution? You are not the only person to recommend this. I think Professor Ishesage also at a point recommended a return to the 1963 constitution. For the benefit of our viewers, what is so different between that 1963 constitution and the 1999 constitution?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. The 1960 constitution, which was the independence constitution, was a negotiated constitution because the different ethnic nationalities were already living on their territories for several thousands of years before the British colonialists came, used the force of arms to force us into cohabitation, leading to the so-called amalgamation in 1914. They did so for their own political and economic interests at our own detriment. So our ethnic nationalities, recognizing that we are an heterogeneous society with different languages, cultures, tradition, custom, artifacts, folklores, mores, and the likes, believe that in order for us to be able to live together, each one should be able to carry on his own lifestyle unhindered, unhamstrung by any other group. That was why the federal constitution was negotiated and it was accepted. And during the period when that constitution was in operation in the First Republic, there was progress, there was development. For example, Chief Abiola, as Premier of Western Region, was able to establish the most enduring legacies, free primary education program in 1955. The first Western Nigeria television broadcasting service was established in Nigeria when there was not even many parts of Western Europe. He did quite a lot of other things. The first stadium, first high-rise building, and the likes. Alhaji Ahmadu Bello, the Sultan of Sokoto, was able to provide free education to those who were available. In the northern region, there was heavy competition. They regarded agriculture as the mainstay of the economy. Till tomorrow, agriculture contributes over 50% of our gross domestic products. Oil is garnering for us virtually maybe less than about 10% or so. But with the advent of the military, they abandoned, when oil was discovered, they abandoned agriculture. And they used their decree to appropriate all the resources of the regions to the central government. So much that the central government, under their commander-in-chief, become like Father Christmas. Today, every governor had to go to Abuja, cap in hand, to seek for assistance. That is not federalism. Again, through their decree, they balkanize Nigeria onto unviable states, which cannot really service themselves except the bailouts from Abuja. Is the reason why today many of the states cannot pay the minimum wage. So, this decree, the so-called 1999 Constitution, that was bring into operation by Decree 24 of 1999, cannot be compared in any way, because it has even taken over all the rights, all the resource allocation of the component units, retain them at the center to be distributed at the behest of the president at the center. Centralized, unitarized governance cannot survive in Nigeria. And we now have in Nigeria a skewed, a warped, a lopsided national structure that cannot stand the test of time. It is time for us to sit down. Why we are asking that the independence constitution should be the basic paperwork is the fact that most of what we need are already set therein. We will need to make some amendments considering all the negative things that the military had done to our corporate existence. They stage military, violent military insurrection at will, topple civilian administration. All those acts remain illegal. They remain prosecutable up to tomorrow, in spite of what they have inserted in the law, that their conduct cannot be queried. I advise that if you are going to make any progress, we must return to that basic document. The crisis that you have with the conferences that held was that you must remember that there was an Obasanjo conference. There was the Babangida conference. There was Obasanjo's conference. There was Abacha's conference before Jonathan's conference. What were the basis of the choice of those people who sat in those different conferences? This time around, we're asking that those who constitute the building blocks upon which Nigeria was constructed should be asked to come and sit down, do another renegotiation.
Thank you very much.
That is all that we're asking.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And on that note, we'd like to thank you very much for being part of the morning show today. Thank you very much.